The crash of my apartment door splitting open at 5:30 in the morning still echoes in my nightmares. 6 police officers stormed through my bedroom, weapons drawn, screaming commands, while I lay there in nothing but boxer shorts, completely bewildered. Behind them stood my brother Derek, tears streaming down his face, pointing directly at my closet. "Check the toolbox," he whispered to the lead detective. That's where I saw him hide it. The cocaine they pulled from my old construction toolbox seemed to materialize from thin air. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, Derek and I shared everything. We built tree forts in the oak tree behind our house on Maple Street, played catch until sunset, and protected each other from neighborhood bullies. Our father, Robert, worked as an insurance broker for State Farm, while our mother, Linda, administered the local elementary school. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom ranch house with cream-colored siding and a green front door that Linda repainted every spring. Derek was always the golden child. Straight-A student from kindergarten through high school graduation, valedictorian, full scholarship to Oregon Health Sciences University. I chose a different path after high school, enrolling in a trade program for construction management. While Derek memorized medical textbooks, I learned to read blueprints and operate heavy machinery. By age 28, I owned a small but successful construction business, specializing in residential renovations. Our parents never hid their pride in Derek's accomplishments. Medical school acceptance letters covered our refrigerator door like trophies. Derek's engagement to Amanda, a corporate lawyer at a prestigious downtown firm, represented the culmination of our family's middle-class dreams. She drove a silver BMW, wore designer clothes, and spoke about their future with confidence that bordered on arrogance. But I knew secrets about Derek that our parents never suspected. 3 months earlier, I had discovered his gambling addiction when he begged me for money to cover losses at a poker room in southeast Portland. Tears filled his eyes as he confessed to losing his entire savings account in a single weekend. Over the following weeks, Derek borrowed $15,000 from me, claiming he needed help with medical school expenses and wedding planning costs. During our last family dinner at our parents' house, Derek had acted strangely nervous. His hands shook while cutting his roast beef, and sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool October evening. He excused himself multiple times to use the bathroom, and I noticed him fumbling with his keys when he thought nobody was watching. Later that evening, he claimed he needed to borrow some tools from my apartment for a home repair project at his place. I gave Derek my spare key without thinking twice. We were brothers, after all. Trust came naturally between us, or so I believed at the time. He returned the key the next morning, thanking me for letting him grab what he needed. Derek mentioned he had taken an old socket wrench set from my hall closet, though I could not remember owning such a set in that particular location. The morning of my arrest, everything clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The toolbox where police found the cocaine belonged to my grandfather, passed down to me after his death 5 years earlier. I rarely opened it, preferring my newer equipment for daily work projects. Derek knew about that toolbox from childhood visits to our grandfather's workshop, where we had spent countless hours learning basic carpentry skills. At the police station, handcuffed to a metal chair in an interrogation room, I pleaded my innocence to Detective Walsh, a heavy-set man with graying temples and suspicious eyes. He showed me photographs of the evidence-sealed bags containing white powder that would supposedly destroy my life and freedom. The amount suggested intent to distribute rather than personal use, elevating the charges from a misdemeanor to a serious felony. My parents arrived at the station within 2 hours, their faces displaying a mixture of shock and disappointment that cut deeper than any physical pain. Linda clutched her purse against her chest like armor, while Robert stood with his arms crossed, avoiding eye contact with me. Derek accompanied them, playing his role as the concerned brother who had done the right thing despite the personal cost. "Carrie, how could you do this to our family?" Linda's voice cracked with emotion. "Your father and I raised you better than this." "Mom, I swear to you, I have never touched drugs in my life," I replied, desperation creeping into my voice. "Derek planted that stuff in my apartment. He had my key last week." Robert shook his head slowly. "Son, denial won't help you now. Derek risked everything by coming forward. He could lose his medical license if this scandal affects his reputation. Derek wiped his eyes with a tissue, maintaining his performance flawlessly. Carrie, I love you, but I couldn't stand by and watch you destroy yourself with drugs. I hoped I was wrong about what I saw, but when I found that cocaine in your toolbox, I knew I had to act. A criminal record won't hurt you as much as it would hurt Derek. Linda added, her words landing like physical blows. Your construction work doesn't require the same level of professional integrity as medicine. Derek's entire career depends on maintaining a clean reputation. Amanda stood beside Derek, her expensive perfume filling the small room with an overwhelming floral scent. If Derek doesn't distance himself from this situation immediately, our engagement is over, she announced coldly. My law firm cannot be associated with drug dealers, even family members. Derek nodded solemnly, squeezing Amanda's hand. I understand completely. Family loyalty has limits when criminal behavior is involved. The public defender assigned to my case, a tired-looking woman named Susan Martinez, reviewed the evidence with professional detachment. She explained that the cocaine had been laced with a pharmaceutical compound called methylphenidate, commonly found in ADHD medications. This detail struck me as significant since Derek had access to numerous prescription drugs through his medical training program. The prosecutor is offering a plea deal, Martinez explained during our first meeting. Plead guilty to possession with intent to distribute, accept 5 years probation and drug counseling. Otherwise, we go to trial and risk 10 years in prison if convicted. I refused the plea bargain immediately. Accepting guilt for crimes I did not commit violated every principle my grandfather had taught me about integrity and personal responsibility. Martinez warned me that fighting the charges would be expensive and difficult, especially with my own brother serving as the primary witness against me. The most shocking revelation came when Martinez showed me the evidence report. Derek's fingerprints appeared on the plastic evidence bag containing the cocaine, but Detective Walsh had dismissed this as contamination from the family member who reported the crime. The convenient explanation felt too neat, too convenient to be coincidental. Detective Walsh seems unusually eager to close this case quickly, Martinez observed. He's refusing to investigate alternative explanations for the evidence placement. As I sat in that cold interrogation room watching my family choose Derek's future over my freedom, I realized that my brother had not acted impulsively. This betrayal had been planned, carefully executed with precision, and supported by people who claimed to love me. The cocaine placement, the timing of Derek's discovery, the family pressure to accept a plea bargain, everything seemed designed to eliminate me as quickly and quietly as possible. County jail became my temporary home while awaiting trial. The concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, and constant noise created an environment designed to break spirits and destroy hope. My cellmate Marcus Thompson, a former accountant wrongly convicted of embezzlement, became my first ally in understanding how the justice system actually operated versus how it was supposed to work. Innocent people go to prison every day, Marcus explained during our second week together. The system is designed to process cases quickly, not necessarily correctly. Your brother played this perfectly by giving them an easy conviction. Marcus had been fighting his own wrongful conviction for 3 years, learning legal research techniques and building relationships with advocacy organizations. He taught me how to request case files, research precedents, and identify inconsistencies in prosecution evidence. More importantly, he helped me understand that survival required strategic thinking rather than emotional reactions. Meanwhile, Derek's testimony during preliminary hearings painted me as a desperate drug dealer who had become increasingly erratic over recent months. He claimed I had asked him about prescription medications and seemed constantly worried about money. According to Derek's sworn statements, I had mentioned knowing people who could help solve financial problems through alternative methods. Every word Derek spoke was technically accurate, but completely misleading. Yes, I had asked him about medications when my back pain flared up after a construction accident. Yes, I worried about money because starting a small business required careful financial management. Yes, I knew people who worked outside traditional employment because the construction industry included many independent contractors and day laborers. Derek's manipulation of context and timing created a narrative that seemed plausible to people who did not know me personally. His tears during testimony appeared genuine. His reluctance to testify seemed authentic, and his professional credentials gave his words additional weight with the jury pool. But Derek's systematic destruction of my life extended far beyond the criminal charges. While I sat in jail, my construction business collapsed as clients canceled contracts and suppliers demanded immediate payment. My reputation in the local construction community evaporated overnight when news of my arrest spread through industry networks. Derek had convinced our parents to remove me from their will, arguing that drug dealers should not benefit from family assets. He forged my signature on several loan applications using my business license and credit history to secure money that disappeared into his gambling activities. My credit score plummeted as these fraudulent loans went into default, making future employment or housing arrangements nearly impossible. Jessica, my girlfriend of 2 years, ended our relationship after Derek showed her fake text messages suggesting I had been selling drugs to college students. Derek created these messages using a burner phone and my contact information, timing them to coincide with evenings when Jessica and I had argued about my work schedule. The fabricated evidence convinced Jessica that our entire relationship had been built on lies. Dr. Patricia Williams, a supervisor at the medical center where Derek completed his residency, approached my defense attorney with concerns about Derek's behavior and performance. She had noticed discrepancies in prescription records and patient files that suggested unauthorized access to controlled substances. Several nurses reported that Derek seemed unusually knowledgeable about street drug prices and dealer networks. Derek asks too many questions about our security procedures, Dr. Williams explained to Martinez during a confidential meeting. He volunteers for shifts in the pharmacy storage area and always knows which medications are in short supply. Hospital records showed that Derek had requested schedule changes that placed him alone in medication storage areas during evening hours. Inventory reports indicated missing quantities of oxycodone, Adderall, and other controlled substances that could be sold for significant profits on the illegal market. Dr. Williams provided Martinez with copies of internal memos documenting Derek's suspicious activities, but hospital administration refused to cooperate with my defense team. They feared that acknowledging security breaches would expose them to liability and regulatory sanctions from the Drug Enforcement Administration. During my 4th month in county jail, a new cellmate arrived who changed everything. Tony Castellanos had been arrested for drug distribution and quickly recognized Derek's name when I mentioned my case. Tony's face went pale as he realized the connection between my brother and his former drug supplier. Derek wasn't just buying cocaine, Tony revealed during a late-night conversation. He was selling prescription drugs to fund his gambling habit and buying street drugs to plant on other people. Derek told me he needed to get rid of someone who knew too much about his activities. Tony produced a smuggled cell phone containing text message conversations with Derek spanning 6 months. The messages discussed drug transactions, gambling debts, and plans to frame someone for distribution charges. Derek had photographed several locations in my apartment during his key borrowing visit, documenting potential hiding spots for planted evidence. The most damaging messages revealed Derek's relationship with a larger drug distribution network operating through the medical center. 3 other medical residents were involved in prescription theft and street sales coordinated by Dr. Victor Caldwell, a respected surgeon who had accumulated massive gambling debts over several years. Tony's evidence proved that Derek had been planning my destruction for months, not acting impulsively after discovering drugs in my possession. The frame job was part of a larger criminal enterprise that used medical professionals' access and credibility to facilitate drug trafficking on multiple levels. When Martinez presented this new evidence to Detective Walsh, he dismissed it as lies from criminals trying to reduce their own sentences. Walsh claimed that drug dealers always blamed other people for their crimes, and that Tony's testimony would not be credible in court due to his own pending charges. But Tony had recorded several phone conversations with Derek without Derek's knowledge, creating audio evidence that would be much harder to dismiss. Derek's voice could be clearly heard discussing the cocaine placement, the timing of his report to police, and his confidence that family loyalty would protect him from serious investigation. "Carey will never suspect his own brother," Derek's voice explained to Tony. "My parents will believe anything I tell them because they need their successful son more than their failure son. Once Carey is in prison, I can use his identity to launder money through his construction business connections." The recordings revealed Derek's complete lack of remorse and his view of me as an expendable obstacle to his criminal activities. He had calculated the family dynamics perfectly, predicting that our parents would sacrifice me to protect his medical career and social status. Marcus helped me understand that defeating Derek required more than proving my innocence. We needed to expose the entire criminal network while building a case that prosecutors could not ignore or dismiss. This meant gathering evidence that went beyond Derek's frame job to include his participation in the larger medical fraud scheme. Dr. Williams secretly visited me in jail, bringing additional evidence about Derek's prescription theft activities. She had documented 15 separate incidents where controlled substances disappeared from secure storage areas during Derek's shifts. Security cameras showed Derek accessing medication cabinets outside normal protocols, always during periods when other staff members were occupied with patient emergencies. Derek created fake patient files to justify missing medications, Dr. Williams explained. He used names from old hospital records and fabricated medical conditions requiring high dosages of controlled substances. When auditors reviewed these files, they appeared legitimate at first glance. The hospital's internal investigation had revealed prescription fraud worth over $40,000 during Derek's 8-month residency period. Derek partnered with 2 other residents and a pharmacy technician to systematically steal medications for street distribution. They rotated their theft activities between different departments to avoid detection by any single supervisor. Private investigator Sarah Chen, hired by Dr. Williams using her personal funds, uncovered Derek's gambling activities at 3 different locations around Portland. Casino security footage showed Derek losing massive amounts of money during weekend visits, often staying until sunrise and leaving visibly agitated when his luck ran out. Sarah's investigation revealed that Derek owed approximately $60,000 to various creditors, including several individuals with connections to organized crime. Text messages from these creditors threatened physical violence if Derek failed to pay his debts within specific timeframes. The timing of these threats corresponded exactly with Derek's increased borrowing from me and his escalation of prescription theft activities. Correctional Officer Tom Rodriguez believed in my innocence after reviewing the case files and observing my behavior during incarceration. Tom helped me access legal databases and communicate with outside investigators without violating jail regulations. His support proved invaluable as we built evidence against Derek and his criminal associates. "Innocent people behave differently than guilty people," Tom explained. "Guilty defendants usually accept plea bargains quickly because they know the evidence is real. Innocent people fight harder because they have nothing to hide." Tom arranged for me to speak with other inmates who had been framed by family members or close associates. Their stories followed similar patterns of betrayal, manipulation, and systematic destruction. Several offered to testify about Derek's boasting regarding his successful frame job and his plans to use my identity for money laundering activities. Sarah's investigation expanded to include Derek's relationship with Dr. Victor Caldwell, the surgeon who coordinated the medical center drug ring. Caldwell had recruited Derek during his first month of residency, identifying him as someone with gambling problems who would be vulnerable to criminal recruitment. Financial records showed that Caldwell had been skimming money from patient insurance claims for 5 years, using the proceeds to fund gambling activities and drug purchases. Derek learned these techniques and applied them to smaller-scale theft while building his own distribution network among medical students and young professionals. The Drug Enforcement Administration had been investigating unusual prescription patterns at the medical center for 6 months, unaware that Derek's frame job was connected to their larger investigation. DEA agents had identified several suspects but had not yet linked Derek to the criminal network because of his careful operational security. Amanda's suspicions about Derek's financial activities led her to hire a forensic accountant to review their shared expenses and future planning documents. The accountant discovered that Derek had been lying about his income, student loan payments, and family financial contributions. Derek claimed to earn money through legitimate part-time medical consulting, but no records existed of such employment. Derek has been using credit cards to fund a lifestyle he cannot afford, the accountant reported to Amanda. His gambling losses exceed his annual income, and he has been borrowing money from multiple sources without disclosing these debts. Amanda confronted Derek about these discrepancies, threatening to end their engagement unless he provided complete financial disclosure. Derek's responses were evasive and contradictory, increasing Amanda's suspicions about the true source of his money problems. The investigation uncovered evidence that Derek had been drugging our father Robert with stolen psychiatric medications to control his behavior and decision-making. Medical tests revealed that Robert had been systematically poisoned with anti-anxiety drugs and antidepressants that affected his cognitive function and emotional responses. Robert's recent personality changes were not natural, Dr. Williams explained after reviewing his blood test results. Someone has been giving him medications that would make him more compliant and less likely to question authority figures. This revelation explained Robert's irrational support for Derek and his immediate rejection of my claims of innocence. Derek had been chemically manipulating our father's judgment for months, ensuring that family dynamics would work in his favor when the frame job was executed. The most shocking discovery came when Sarah found offshore bank accounts in Derek's name containing over $200,000. This money represented Derek's cut of the medical fraud operation, far exceeding what could be earned through prescription theft alone. Derek had been billing Medicare for fake patient treatments and splitting the profits with Dr. Caldwell. Anonymous packages began arriving at my lawyer's office containing recorded phone conversations between Derek and drug dealers. These recordings discussed plans to frame me, steal my identity, and use my construction business connections to launder money. Derek's voice could be clearly heard discussing the timeline for destroying my life and his confidence that family loyalty would protect him from investigation. "Carrie's too honest to understand what's happening until it's too late," Derek explained to one dealer. "By the time he figures out I framed him, I'll have disappeared with enough money to start over somewhere else. His construction license gives me access to cash businesses perfect for money laundering, too." The recordings proved that Derek viewed me as nothing more than a useful tool for his criminal activities. His tears and expressions of brotherly concern were calculated performances designed to maintain his cover while systematically destroying my life and freedom. The new evidence forced District Attorney Michael Patterson to drop all charges against me after 8 months in county jail. Patterson announced at a press conference that prosecutorial misconduct had led to my wrongful arrest and that a full investigation would examine police procedures and evidence handling in my case. Walking out of jail into the bright February sunlight felt surreal after months of fluorescent lighting and concrete walls. My construction business had completely collapsed during my incarceration, leaving me with no income-destroyed credit and a reputation that made employment nearly impossible. Derek's systematic destruction of my financial stability had succeeded, even though his frame job ultimately failed. Our parents still refused to apologize or acknowledge their role in supporting Derek's lies. Robert and Linda maintained that they had acted appropriately based on the information available to them at the time. They claimed that Derek's criminal activities were separate from their decision to believe his testimony about my supposed drug dealing. "We're glad you're innocent," Linda said during our first conversation after my release, "but you can understand why we believed Derek. Medical students don't usually lie about serious criminal matters." Their continued defense of Derek's credibility revealed how deeply his manipulation had affected their judgment. Derek had spent years building his reputation as the responsible son, while subtly undermining my credibility through small lies and exaggerations about my behavior and lifestyle choices. Sarah Chen and I formed an investigative partnership to gather additional evidence against Derek and his criminal associates. Sarah's background in corporate fraud investigation complemented my construction industry knowledge of money laundering through fake invoices and shell companies. Together, we created a comprehensive timeline of Derek's criminal activities spanning 3 years. Derek had used my construction business license to create fake invoices for building projects that never existed. These invoices were submitted to insurance companies as legitimate claims generating money that Derek split with accomplices in the medical fraud ring. My reputation for honest work provided credibility that Derek exploited for financial gain. The Drug Enforcement Administration agreed to let me participate in a sting operation to gather additional evidence against Derek. I contacted Derek through our mother expressing interest in reconciliation and forgiveness. Derek eagerly agreed to meet, believing that family pressure would eventually force me to accept his version of events and move on with my life. During our meeting at a coffee shop in downtown Portland, I wore recording equipment provided by DEA agents. Derek immediately began apologizing for the pain his testimony had caused, claiming he had acted out of concern for my welfare rather than malicious intent. "I never wanted you to go to prison," Derek lied smoothly. "I was hoping the arrest would scare you into getting help for your drug problem. When I saw that cocaine in your toolbox, I panicked and called police without thinking through the consequences." Derek's performance was convincing, but his recorded words contradicted the evidence we had gathered about his premeditated planning. When I pressed him about specific details, Derek became defensive and ultimately admitted to framing me because family protects family, and sometimes that means making hard choices. "You would have done the same thing if our situations were reversed," Derek continued. "My medical career is worth more to the family than your construction business. Mom and Dad invested everything in my education, so protecting that investment benefits everyone." Derek revealed the locations where he had hidden drug money and evidence of his criminal activities. He also provided details about Dr. Caldwell's operation and the names of other medical professionals involved in prescription fraud. Derek's arrogance led him to confess extensively, believing that our family relationship would prevent me from using the information against him. The financial investigation revealed that Derek had forged my signature on multiple high-interest loans totaling $37,000. These loans were secured using my business assets and personal property as collateral, creating legal obligations that would have destroyed my credit permanently if not discovered and challenged. Banks initially refused to acknowledge the forgery, claiming that family members often signed documents on each other's behalf. Sarah's forensic analysis proved that the signatures were inconsistent with my normal handwriting patterns, and that Derek had practiced copying my signature using documents stolen from my apartment. When banks finally accepted the forgery evidence, Derek's assets were immediately frozen to prevent further financial crimes. Derek lost access to his checking account, credit cards, and the engagement ring he had purchased for Amanda using stolen money. The financial pressure forced Derek to make increasingly desperate decisions that exposed his criminal activities to wider scrutiny. Amanda ended their engagement immediately after learning about Derek's drug dealing and gambling addiction. She held a press conference announcing her decision and expressing sympathy for Derek's victims, including me. Amanda's public statements damaged Derek's reputation in social circles where his medical career had previously provided automatic respect and credibility. "I was deceived by someone I trusted completely," Amanda explained to reporters. "Derek manipulated my feelings to hide criminal activities that harmed innocent people, including his own brother. I cannot be associated with someone who would frame family members for personal gain." The Medical Licensing Board launched a formal investigation into Derek's prescription theft and patient abuse. Evidence showed that Derek had violated federal drug laws, medical ethics standards, and professional conduct requirements. The board threatened to revoke Derek's medical license, permanently ending his career before it officially began. Hospital administrators suspended Derek without pay and banned him from medical center property pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. Dr. Williams was promoted to head of hospital security and ethics oversight recognition for her courage in exposing the fraud operation despite potential professional retaliation. Community members who had supported Derek during my arrest began questioning their assumptions about family loyalty and professional credentials. Local newspapers published investigative articles about Derek's crimes, and my wrongful conviction generating public sympathy and support for my efforts to rebuild my life and reputation. The most devastating blow to Derek came when Robert's medical test confirmed systematic poisoning with psychiatric medications. Derek had been drugging our father for months to control his behavior and ensure his support during the frame job. This evidence transformed Derek from a misguided brother into someone capable of attempted murder. Robert was hospitalized for detoxification and psychological evaluation as the stolen medications cleared his system. As his cognitive function improved, Robert began remembering Derek's manipulation and control tactics. The realization that his own son had been poisoning him shattered Robert's faith in Derek and forced him to confront his role in supporting my wrongful conviction. Derek has been controlling my thoughts and emotions for months. Robert admitted during a tearful conversation after his discharge from the hospital. I said things about you that I would never normally say. Derek made me believe things that weren't true by affecting my brain chemistry. Medical records revealed that Derek had prescribed unnecessary psychiatric medications to both parents, claiming they needed treatment for stress and anxiety related to my supposed drug dealing. Derek used his medical knowledge to select drugs that would make Robert and Linda more compliant and less likely to question his version of events. The discovery of Derek's poisoning activities led to additional federal charges, including attempted murder, elder abuse, and practicing medicine without proper licensing. These charges carried potential sentences far exceeding the drug trafficking and fraud counts, ensuring that Derek would face decades in prison if convicted on all counts. Federal agents arrested Derek at the medical center during his evening shift, handcuffing him in front of colleagues and patients, while reading charges that included drug trafficking, identity theft, fraud, attempted murder, and elder abuse. The arrest was deliberately public and humiliating, designed to send a message about the consequences of medical professionals who abuse their positions for criminal gain. Local television news covered Derek's arrest extensively, interviewing former patients, medical colleagues, and family members about his crimes and character. The coverage revealed additional victims who had been harmed by Derek's prescription theft, including elderly patients whose medications were stolen and replaced with placebos. Derek's mugshot appeared on newspaper front pages across Oregon, destroying his reputation and social standing permanently. Medical schools across the country received notification of his arrest, ensuring that Derek could never restart his medical career in another state or institution. Amanda held a second press conference detailing Derek's psychological and financial abuse during their relationship. She revealed that Derek had isolated her from friends and family, controlled her access to money, and threatened professional retaliation if she questioned his activities or spending patterns. Derek used his medical knowledge to manipulate my emotions and decision-making, Amanda explained. He prescribed anxiety medications that affected my judgment and made me more dependent on his approval and support. I now realize that our entire relationship was based on his need to control and exploit people who trusted him. Robert's recovery from Derek's poisoning provided shocking insights into the depth of Derek's manipulation and planning. As the psychiatric medications cleared Robert's system, he remembered conversations where Derek had coached him on what to say to police and lawyers about my supposed drug-dealing activities. Derek had shown Robert fake text messages and photographs suggesting that I was involved in criminal activities. Derek claimed these materials came from concerned friends who had witnessed my drug dealing but were afraid to come forward publicly. Robert's chemically altered judgment prevented him from questioning the authenticity of these fabricated evidence materials. Linda discovered that Derek had been stealing her jewelry and prescription medications for months, replacing valuable items with cheap replicas and her medications with placebos. Derek's theft explained Linda's recent health problems, including increased anxiety and depression caused by lack of proper medication. Bank records revealed that Derek had forged Linda's signature on multiple financial documents, using her credit history to secure loans for gambling and drug purchases. Derek's access to family financial information allowed him to commit identity theft against both parents while maintaining their trust and affection. The complete financial audit revealed that Derek had stolen over $100,000 from various sources, including patients, family members, the hospital insurance companies, and government healthcare programs. His gambling debts exceeded his theft proceeds, creating a cycle of increasingly desperate criminal behavior. Forensic accountants traced Derek's money through multiple shell companies' offshore accounts and cryptocurrency transactions designed to hide the source and destination of stolen funds. Derek had planned to disappear with the money after my conviction, using a false identity created with my personal information. Derek's former friends and colleagues came forward with additional evidence of his lies, manipulation, and criminal activities. Medical students revealed that Derek had been selling them stolen prescription drugs for personal use and distribution to college campuses. Residents described Derek's requests for information about hospital security procedures and patient financial information. The construction community rallied around me with job offers, financial support, and public statements defending my character and work ethic. Union leaders who had known me for years spoke to reporters about Derek's systematic destruction of my reputation and livelihood through lies and fraud. My former clients expressed shame for canceling contracts based on false criminal charges and offered to hire my new construction company when I was ready to restart my business. Their support provided hope for financial recovery and professional rehabilitation after months of unemployment and destroyed credit. Dr. Williams and other hospital staff who had suspected Derek's criminal activities received recognition for their courage in coming forward despite potential professional retaliation. Hospital administration implemented new security procedures and oversight mechanisms to prevent similar fraud in the future. The Drug Enforcement Administration expanded their investigation to include the entire medical fraud network, resulting in arrest of 12 additional suspects, including Dr. Victor Caldwell and 3 pharmacy technicians. The operation had been stealing and distributing controlled substances worth over $2 million annually. Derek's secret offshore bank account contained $215,000 stolen from Medicare claims for fake patient treatments. This discovery led to additional federal healthcare fraud charges that carried potential sentences of 20 years in prison, far exceeding what I had originally faced for the planted cocaine. Community organizations that had supported Derek during my arrest issued public apologies and statements supporting criminal justice reform. Several groups established funds to help other families affected by wrongful convictions and police misconduct. Social media campaigns emerged supporting my case and highlighting problems with the criminal justice system's treatment of family testimony and circumstantial evidence. Legal experts used my story to advocate for reforms in evidence handling procedures and mandatory investigation of alternative suspects. The psychological evaluation ordered by Derek's defense attorney revealed narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial behavior patterns, and complete lack of empathy for his victims. The evaluation confirmed that Derek viewed other people as tools to be used for his benefit rather than individuals deserving respect and consideration. Derek's criminal defense attorney recommended a plea bargain to avoid trial, acknowledging that the evidence against Derek was overwhelming and that a jury would likely convict him on all charges. Derek faced potential sentences exceeding 40 years in federal prison if found guilty at trial. The plea bargain negotiations revealed additional crimes that Derek had committed, including insurance fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering through fake construction projects. Derek's lawyer estimated that full prosecution on all charges could result in life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Derek's federal trial began 18 months after his arrest, generating extensive media coverage about medical fraud, family betrayal, and wrongful conviction. The courthouse filled with supporters for both Derek and me, creating a dramatic contrast between those seeking justice and those still believing in Derek's innocence despite overwhelming evidence. Derek attempted suicide in his jail cell 2 weeks before trial, but correctional officers discovered him in time to prevent serious injury. The suicide attempt left Derek with permanent neurological damage affecting his speech and coordination, eliminating any possibility of returning to medical practice even if acquitted of criminal charges. Derek's public defender recommended accepting the prosecution's plea bargain offer of 25 years in federal prison without parole eligibility. The alternative was trial with potential conviction on all charges and sentencing exceeding 40 years. Derek refused the plea deal, maintaining his innocence and blaming me for fabricating evidence against him. Our parents finally acknowledged their mistakes and agreed to testify against Derek in federal court. Robert and Linda's testimony about Derek's poisoning and manipulation provided powerful evidence of his willingness to harm family members for personal gain. Their emotional testimony moved several jurors to tears. Derek systematically destroyed our family relationships through lies, drugs, and manipulation, Robert testified. He poisoned me to control my thoughts and betrayed Carrie to protect his criminal activities. We failed Carrie by believing Derek's lies, and we are committed to helping him rebuild his life. Linda's testimony revealed additional details about Derek's manipulation techniques, including his use of medical terminology, to convince family members that his decisions were based on scientific knowledge rather than personal interests. Derek had exploited their trust in his medical education to justify increasingly controlling and abusive behavior. I testified about Derek's systematic destruction of my life, from the initial cocaine planting through the ongoing identity theft and business sabotage. My testimony focused on the emotional impact of family betrayal, rather than technical details of Derek's criminal activities, helping jurors understand the personal cost of his actions. Derek didn't just frame me for drug dealing, I explained to the jury. He destroyed my relationship with our parents, ruined my business, ended my romantic relationship, and tried to steal my identity permanently. He used my love and trust against me as weapons to protect his criminal activities. The prosecution presented evidence of Derek's crimes in chronological order, showing how each criminal act built upon previous crimes in an escalating pattern of fraud and violence. Expert witnesses explained the medical fraud techniques, money laundering procedures, and psychological manipulation tactics Derek had employed. Tony Castellanos testified about Derek's role in the larger drug distribution network, and his boasts about successfully framing me for crimes I did not commit. Tony's testimony was corroborated by recorded phone conversations, financial records, and surveillance footage from drug transactions. Dr. Williams provided expert testimony about hospital security procedures and Derek's systematic violations of medical ethics and federal drug laws. Her testimony established that Derek's crimes were premeditated and sophisticated, rather than impulsive mistakes by an overwhelmed medical student. Sarah Chen testified about her investigation into Derek's financial crimes and gambling activities, presenting evidence of money laundering, identity theft, and fraud spanning 3 years. Her testimony connected Derek's various criminal activities into a comprehensive pattern of systematic theft and deception. Amanda's testimony about Derek's psychological and financial abuse provided insight into his manipulative personality and lack of empathy for victims. Her testimony helped jurors understand how Derek could betray family members while maintaining an appearance of concern and affection. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before finding Derek guilty on all 23 counts, including drug trafficking, identity theft, fraud, attempted murder, and elder abuse. The speed of deliberation indicated that jurors found the evidence overwhelming and Derek's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Judge Patricia Morrison sentenced Derek to 18 years in federal prison without possibility of parole, followed by 10 years of supervised probation. Judge Morrison described Derek's crimes as particularly heinous because they involved betraying family trust and exploiting professional medical knowledge for criminal gain. Derek Thompson represents the worst possible abuse of medical education and family relationships, Judge Morrison stated during sentencing. He used his knowledge to poison his own father, frame his brother for serious crimes, and steal from vulnerable patients who trusted him with their health care and lives. Derek's appeals were denied at every level, confirming his conviction and sentence. Medical malpractice attorneys filed multiple civil lawsuits against Derek on behalf of patients he had harmed through prescription theft and medical fraud. Derek's remaining assets were seized to pay restitution to victims. Amanda published an article in a national magazine about recognizing manipulation in relationships and the importance of trusting personal instincts when something feels wrong. Her article helped other people identify similar abuse patterns and seek help before becoming victims of manipulation. The federal prosecutor who handled Derek's case received a letter revealing that Derek was being investigated for potential murder charges related to an elderly patient who died after Derek stole her heart medications. While the charges could not be proven beyond reasonable doubt, the investigation confirmed Derek's willingness to kill innocent people to protect his criminal activities. Derek was transferred to a maximum security federal prison in Colorado, far from Oregon, and family members who might provide support or assistance. Prison officials classified Derek as a high-risk inmate due to his medical knowledge and history of poisoning family members. Prison records showed that Derek refused to participate in drug addiction treatment or psychological counseling programs, maintaining his innocence and blaming me for his conviction and imprisonment. Derek's complete lack of remorse or personal responsibility eliminated any possibility of early release or sentence reduction. Fellow inmates who learned about Derek's crimes, particularly his poisoning of our elderly father, treated him with hostility and isolation. Derek's safety required protective custody arrangements that further limited his privileges and contact with other people. 5 years after his imprisonment, Derek finally wrote letters to our family seeking forgiveness and expressing limited remorse for his actions. However, these letters focused on his suffering in prison, rather than acknowledging the harm he had caused to victims, suggesting that his apologies were motivated by self-pity rather than genuine remorse. 5 years have passed since Derek began serving his federal prison sentence, and my life has been completely transformed through hard work, community support, and strategic decisions about forgiveness and rebuilding. Carey Construction LLC now employs 52 workers and specializes in affordable housing development projects that strengthen communities while providing stable employment for people who deserve second chances. My marriage to Sarah Chen brought together two people who understood the importance of truth, justice, and mutual support in creating lasting relationships. Our twin daughters Emma and Sophie are now 3 years old and fill our home with laughter, curiosity, and the kind of unconditional love that makes all previous struggles seem worthwhile. Sarah continues operating her investigation firm, specializing in wrongful conviction cases and helping families navigate complex legal challenges. Robert and Linda rebuilt their lives after confronting the reality of Derek's manipulation and their role in supporting my wrongful conviction. They attend therapy regularly to process the trauma of being poisoned and manipulated by their own son, and they volunteer with organizations supporting families affected by wrongful convictions and elder abuse. Our relationship required years of careful rebuilding based on consistent actions rather than empty promises. Robert and Linda proved their commitment to change by testifying against Derek, supporting my business endeavors, and publicly acknowledging their mistakes and believing his lies over my truthful explanations. "We failed you when you needed us most," Robert said during one of our family therapy sessions. "Derek used our love for him as a weapon against you, but that doesn't excuse our failure to investigate his claims or consider alternative explanations. We're committed to earning your forgiveness through actions, not just words." Linda added, "We realize now that good parenting sometimes means allowing children to face consequences for their choices rather than protecting them from accountability. Derek's success in medical school blinded us to his character flaws and criminal behavior. Carey Construction focuses on projects that benefit working families and strengthen communities, including affordable housing developments, senior citizen accessibility modifications, and disaster recovery construction. Our company employs former inmates, people recovering from addiction, and others who face employment discrimination because of past mistakes or circumstances beyond their control. Marcus Thompson. My former cellmate now serves as our company's financial manager and legal compliance officer. His accounting background and experience with wrongful conviction provide valuable perspectives on business operations and employee relations. Marcus helps other former inmates transition to civilian life through job training and placement programs. Tom Rodriguez, the correctional officer who supported me during incarceration, left his job to join our company as safety coordinator and employee advocate. Tom's law enforcement background helps our workers navigate interactions with police and court systems while building positive relationships with community organizations. Dr. Williams received national recognition for her courage in exposing medical fraud and continues advocating for stronger oversight of prescription drug handling in healthcare facilities. She serves on the board of our foundation supporting wrongful conviction victims and speaks at medical conferences about ethical responsibilities and professional integrity. The Carrie Thompson Foundation, established with restitution money recovered from Derek's criminal activities, provides financial assistance, legal support, and counseling services to families affected by wrongful convictions. We help people rebuild their lives after exoneration while advocating for criminal justice reforms that prevent similar injustices. Documentary filmmaker Michael Rodriguez created an award-winning film about my case titled Framed by Blood, which aired on national television and streaming platforms. The documentary educated viewers about wrongful convictions, family manipulation, and the importance of thorough investigation before accepting criminal accusations. My testimony before the Oregon State Legislature led to new laws requiring mandatory investigation of alternative suspects in cases involving family accusations, improved evidence handling procedures, and compensation for wrongful conviction victims. These reforms help protect other innocent people from experiencing similar injustices. Professional speaking engagements at legal conferences, law schools, and community organizations allow me to share lessons learned about recognizing manipulation, maintaining integrity under pressure, and rebuilding life after traumatic betrayal. These speaking opportunities generate income for our foundation, while educating others about wrongful conviction prevention. Derek remains in federal prison with no possibility of parole until 2038. Prison records show that he continues refusing psychological treatment and maintains his innocence despite overwhelming evidence of his crimes. Derek writes letters seeking reconciliation, but these communications focus on his suffering rather than acknowledging harm caused to victims. Derek's letters, which arrive monthly, remain unopened in a locked drawer in my office. Sarah and I decided that protecting our family's peace and emotional health requires maintaining strict boundaries with someone who demonstrated willingness to destroy lives for personal gain. Forgiveness for my own healing does not require reconciling with someone who remains dangerous and unremorseful. Amanda completed law school and now specializes in domestic violence cases, using her experience with Derek's manipulation to help other survivors recognize abuse patterns and seek legal protection. She married a fellow attorney and has 2 children, building the healthy family life that Derek's manipulation had prevented. Community organizations that initially supported Derek during my arrest have implemented policies requiring thorough investigation before taking public positions on criminal cases. Several groups issued formal apologies and established funds supporting wrongful conviction victims as acknowledgement of their mistakes. The medical fraud case expanded to include 17 defendants and resulted in convictions that eliminated a criminal network stealing millions of dollars annually from healthcare programs. Hospital security procedures nationwide were improved to prevent similar fraud, protecting patients and healthcare institutions from exploitation. Social media campaigns supporting criminal justice reform gained momentum from sharing my story and highlighting systemic problems that allow innocent people to be convicted based on insufficient evidence and family accusations. These campaigns helped pass legislation improving defense attorney resources and evidence investigation requirements. Personal growth through therapy helped me understand that surviving betrayal requires distinguishing between forgiveness as personal healing and reconciliation as restored relationship. I forgave Derek for my own emotional peace while maintaining boundaries to protect my family from someone who demonstrated willingness to harm innocent people. The life lesson learned through this experience is that family bonds should never justify enabling destructive behavior or protecting people from consequences of their criminal actions. True love sometimes means allowing people to face accountability for their choices rather than sacrificing innocent family members to protect guilty ones. Character is built through choices made when nobody is watching, and real success comes from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. My daughters will learn that integrity means doing the right thing regardless of personal cost, and that building trust requires consistent actions over time rather than shared history or genetic relationships. Standing in my company headquarters surrounded by photographs of completed projects and grateful families, I watched Sarah and our daughters visit my office with lunch and news about their morning activities. Robert and Linda arrived to discuss weekend plans their relationship with me cautiously rebuilt through years of honest communication and consistent effort. Derek's latest letter sits unopened on my desk beside dozens of others, but my attention focuses on the family I chose to build through trust and shared values rather than the family I lost through betrayal and manipulation. My story ends with the understanding that healing from betrayal requires strategic choices about which relationships deserve investment and which boundaries protect the people we love most. Success means creating something meaningful from painful experiences while refusing to let past trauma define future possibilities. Every person who works for our company, every family who lives in housing we built, and every wrongfully convicted person helped by our foundation represents victory over the destruction Derek attempted to create. What would you do if your own family betrayed you to protect someone who was destroying lives through criminal behavior? How do you balance forgiveness with protecting yourself and loved ones from people who have proven they will harm innocent people for personal gain? I hope my story helps you understand the difference between supporting family members and enabling criminal behavior, and I encourage you to comment below about your thoughts on family loyalty versus justice. Please like this video if it helped you think about the importance of integrity in family relationships. Subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming betrayal and rebuilding after trauma. And share this with anyone who might benefit from understanding how manipulation works in families. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope you find the strength to make difficult but necessary choices when the people you love prove they will harm others for personal gain.